Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. Chanley Painter over at Court TV did a really good interview with Camille Vasquez about the Depp versus Heard trial. And yes, we know all the details, but she actually revealed some new ones that I wanted to share with you. Some interesting insight behind the scenes as they were trying the case. And yes, she spoke up about Amber. We're going to get there in a second. But man, she really did slam Amber Heard, calling her a burning bridges person, which we all knew. Also talks about who was the hardest witness to do, like all on her side, etc. But what was really telling for me was this portion right here. I mean, we know this. It's nothing to surprise any of you guys. But, you know, they're talking about, you know, the V word, the violence of who, you know, who was really responsible. And I want to play this clip from Camille because she just answered it, I think, so eloquently. I don't understand how anybody else on Team Amber can ignore it, but here it is.
The person that ended up in the hospital after Australia was Johnny Depp. The person with any injury was Johnny Depp. The only person with medical records in this case was Johnny Depp. I mean, it was a violent relationship, except she was the aggressor.
Woo! I mean, say it again, girl. My goodness, that you couldn't have said it any better. I just thought that was such a wonderful reminder that we all need to say, because so much is being rewritten in the media about how it was the other way around. And so many journalists want to just keep ignoring the fact that, no, that's actually what happened. And talking about the mound of evidence that, you know, what didn't get to come in, well, it goes both ways, because she also reminds, and I think this was the most insightful, she reminds us all that there was something on Johnny's side that also didn't get in.
He told Dr. Kipper that Amber had cut off his finger. And he said that only to Dr. Kipper as he was treating this bleeding finger. And we thought that should qualify for the medical emergency exception to hearsay. And it did not come in. And, you know, to us, that was a key moment, because he didn't want to tell anyone, but he felt he needed to tell his doctor that was literally treating his finger on, you know, in a car, that she had cut it off by throwing a bottle at him.
Now, and what's so frustrating is the fact that, you know, they tried to keep saying like, oh, he never said anything, never told anybody. In fact, he said the opposite. They were playing both sides. Like they were trying to keep this away so they could say, well, see, he never said it, when he did. He absolutely did. Now, Amber's team's trying to say, well, yeah, but she told her therapist, etc. But here was Johnny telling the medical professional who's literally helping to bandage and fix this injury, telling him privately, this is what happened. And then publicly all around trying to still defend her, because that's always what he did. She was the aggressor. That's what happens. The story just lines up perfectly. And in fact, the Australian audio tape also confirms this. Like, Kipper comes up and talks to the nurse, and Amber's walking around. The audio tape confirms all of the actions, because Amber's walking around like nothing happened, and Johnny's the one who's got the damage. That also didn't come in. So every time Amber's team wants to say all the mountains of evidence that didn't come in, it's absurd to me. All right, here's another clip I wanted to play with you from Chanley's interview.
As you mentioned, most of Amber's witnesses weren't live, including some of her friends. Why do you think that is?
I think, as we said in closing arguments, this is the person that burns bridges.
Sitting here today, do you still consider Ms. Heard a friend?
I wouldn't consider her not a friend.
What does that mean?
We don't speak. We are not enemies.
Sorry. Yep,
When did
they're
you
not
first
friends.
tell Miss Heard that
And then she did the same thing. No longer, even though she defended her, none of it. But why did they do that? Another really good bombshell insight from.
There was no way we could have predicted that redirect was going.
Oh wait, hold on. I thought I had this. This part. You got to get to this.
These people were her friends anymore, and I understand they testified the way they did, but most of them had already given testimony during the divorce, had been deposed during the case, and so they were locked in.
That's so key. If they changed their story, then they were lying under oath. And so all these people who hated Amber had to keep telling the same story, or else. That's why they all looked like hostage survivors in those testimony clips.
To a version of what they claim happened. And that's not to say that they were lying or not telling the truth. Something
She's covering herself there. It might be.
else that's really important to note here is none of these people saw abuse.
Yes.
Not one.
One of my favorite parts of the trial was watching you keep your finger on the microphone.
Yes.
And you would literally object
It's kind of watching Camille laugh that was embarrassing
to
for
every
Elaine.
question Elaine Bredhoff asked.
Here's they do a little montage, and here's where I was.
To go so badly for them. I mean, it really seemed like she had put it together at the last minute. It was some note
She's talking about Elaine. Everything was unorganized.
that she had on a notepad. There's a part of me that almost feels badly for her as a colleague. What I remember about
Almost. Did you hear? Almost feels bad.
that redirect was, I think at one point she said, I'm trying here, I'm trying. And I looked over to that side and no one was helping her. They were all just, in their seats looking down. And I felt so badly because our team was incredibly different. They knew every question. They were predicting the answers. They had the evidence, page and line, ready to go. It was just such a different process. I felt supported. It was shocking how ineffective that was.
Why did
100%. And who didn't notice that? It was unbelievable. Like Ben Rottenborn, who I think was the better attorney, did not want to help her. It just did not feel like they were really on the same team. They were just playing it as they went.
How would you evaluate her as a witness?
Now, I think it's Amber's fault because I'm sure she was behind the scenes yelling at them all, being unrealistic and impossible to deal with as a client. That's just my 2 cents, but that's my speculation warning. But how was she on there?
Don't think she came off particularly likable or credible. I think the fact that she didn't own up to anything caused major concerns for the jury.
There was evidence of violence.
So we got that part, which we talked about. I want to remind you to go there. But those are the biggest takeaways I wanted to play with you. She's burning. She likes to burn those bridges. Amber Heard is what the quote fully was there. Because they talked about Amber. Who was the worst witnesses? Dr. Hughes was difficult, and then they talked about Whitney because she was somebody who was going to defend her relative no matter what. But perhaps the most interesting part of the interview is when she confirms what she said about her during the closing arguments. I think she is, as we said at times, a bridge burner. And so, she really didn't have a close relationship with any of them. I think those people, including her former lawyer, are no longer friends with her. Some of them showed a closed attitude about it, although in no way means they were lied during testimony. But there you go. Amber burned so many bridges. It is previous girlfriend. Everyone's just terrified to get involved or speak about her. And that's ultimately what happened. And so, all this oh my gosh, we must protect Amber. No. Let her look. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it. When it comes up, we'll report on it. I will give Amber one prop. She has not done more interviews. Now, I think she's doing it behind the scenes through her team, through the tentacles of her team, because she realizes she can't, but others can do it for her. I personally believe that's what's happening, but I wish she would just move on with her life, raise her kid, and, take some accountability for once. Johnny did admit and had to own all of that stuff, all the nasty stuff. He's still being ridiculed online too. Maybe not to the extent Amber is, fair, but at a certain point, it's just, come on, please, we all got to move on. Yes, we said our piece. It's there. This appeal, fine. See the appeal through. I guess legally, yep, she's allowed to do it. But I hope when that is over, we can all just move on. But I appreciate Camille's insight on here. I thought it was interesting. What did you guys think? Please, if you haven't already, double check that you're subscribed. Hit that bell for all alerts. Hit the button. Smash the like. Leave a comment down below. What was your favorite tidbit that Camille said down in the comments? And stay tuned for more content here on Popcorn Planet. Have a wonderful day, everybody.